Good evening, America. Welcome to the Inside Scoop. Tomorrow, the voters of Virginia, Maryland, and the District of Columbia will go to the polls to elect the President of the United States. It will probably be a senator, Senator Obama, Senator Clinton, or Senator McCain, one of the three sitting senators. It could possibly be Governor Huckabee. In any case, voters in the Democratic and Republican primaries, that means you folks, will have a chance to make your choice known. But what's surprising, perhaps, in a race that's gotten so much attention is how many undecided voters are out there. Here we have the Potomac Primary, and voters on both sides of the Potomac River, many of them don't know who they're going to vote for. This is your chance, you undecided voters, and also those of you that are leaning toward a candidate but aren't 100% sure. Here's your chance to hear from representatives of all four campaigns. All four campaigns here to serve you, to answer your questions and the toughest questions I can think of on why you should support one or another president of the United States. Because it's your show, you can call in and have your questions heard. The toll-free number is 571-749-1166. The toll-free number, if you're listening on the web, is 888-488-MARK. Many of you like to write your questions down on the blog. You're very welcome to do that. Just go to radioinsidescoop.com, post your questions on there. We'll be asking them of the representatives today. Sitting to my immediate right is Congressman Jim Moran. He is a congressman who represents Alexandria, Arlington, and parts of Fairfax County, Virginia. And just yesterday, he declared his endorsement of Senator Obama for President of the United States. Sitting to his right is Barbara Favola. She is the vice chairman of the Board of Supervisors of Arlington County, number 2 in Arlington, if you will. And she has announced her proud support of Senator Clinton. Coming in on the phone will be David Avella. He is the chairman of the 8th Congressional District Republican Committee. He is a supporter of John McCain. And later on in the hour, we will hear from the Speaker of the Virginia House of Delegates. That is Bill Howell, and he is a supporter of Governor Huckabee. Let me welcome you both here in studio to the Inside Scoop.
Nice to be with you, Mike.
Well, let me ask you first, Congressman Moran. Yes, you came out just yesterday for Senator Obama. Why so late? Why did you make the decision just yesterday?
I've been torn. I have a great deal of respect and affection for Hillary Clinton. I think she is a tremendous person and a very able legislator with great leadership potential. So my endorsement of Barack Obama was not to denigrate Hillary Clinton in any way. I have great respect for her, and that's why I was torn. I have concluded, though, that Barack Obama not only has the best opportunity to win in November, but I think he also has an opportunity to make the Democratic Party more inclusive, to broaden its base, to include many of the independents that have left the party over the last 15, 25 years even. And I am amazed at the excitement that he has been able to generate. I think that's the kind of president that we need. I think that he will be able to achieve a more quantum leap in progress, both domestically and internationally, whereas Mrs. Clinton might be more constrained in her ability to achieve those same objectives, so that hers might be the more incremental process.
Let me ask Barbara Favola. Congressman Moran has a good point. If you look at the polls, you can see that independents are pretty much overwhelmingly going for Senator Obama over Senator Clinton. She wins more core Democrats, it seems, in many of those polls.
Absolutely.
But he wins more independents. Since Democrats need independents to win in November, why shouldn't a Democrat who wants to win, who wants to beat the Republican nominee, vote for Senator Obama?
Well, that's a very good question. I guess you have to ask yourself, if you truly were an independent, how attractive is Senator McCain if he's the front runner of the Republican Party? So you're faced with a possible choice of Senator McCain and Senator Obama. I don't see the independents necessarily moving to Obama with Senator McCain as the Republican nominee. I've always thought it was important for the Democrats to stand by their core set of values. to think about the vision they want for the country, and then to really elect somebody who has the courage and the skills to be able to implement that vision. And I think Hillary Clinton is the best candidate in our lineup this year to take our country where it needs to go for the 21st century.
The question of courage and skills. We have a call from Jim in Madisonville, Louisiana. The Inside Scoop is webcast all across the country, and we do get calls from across the country. And Jim in Louisiana challenges Barack Obama's experience. Congressman Moran, Bill Clinton once called it a fairy tale. Now, he was talking about Obama's views on the Iraq War, but one could talk about it more generally. It is a fairy tale. Here's a man who's been in the Senate barely 3 years, in the entire U.S. Congress. If you've been, of course, in politics for decades, a decade ago, Barack Obama wasn't even in the Illinois state legislature. How can we know that this man who speaks well, I talk to people, they love his oratory, they're inspired by it, but he's very, very new to the political scene. What makes us think that Senator Obama can achieve what his soaring rhetoric says?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure that the political, even the legislative experience is the prime ingredient to lead America in a time of crisis. And I only referred to you to Abraham Lincoln, who served one term in the Congress, and then he was defeated the next time, and yet he ran for president, became one of the finest presidents we've ever had, perhaps the best. So I don't think that experience is always the most telling factor in choosing somebody, but the reality is that Barack Obama has more experience than Hillary Clinton. He was in the legislature for 10 years, more than Senator Clinton has, and he currently serves
in the Illinois state legislature.
In the Illinois, that's correct, in the Illinois state legislature. But you know, he has the experience of community organizing, which I think is relevant to being able to lead all the people of this nation. He knows what it's like to live in a really economically disadvantaged area, to deal with people who really do need government on their side. He has tremendous legal experience. He's been cited by perhaps Lawrence Tribe, who's perhaps the most well-known of the legal experts in this country, as the most capable, most brilliant law student that he ever taught. He was editor of the Harvard Law Review. That says something for his intellect.
But there are lots of smart people in America,
yeah.
And he certainly, again, I'm not questioning the power of his oratory, but there are a lot of Democrats out there that say to me, you know, Barack Obama, I like what he says, but aren't we kind of rolling the dice here? Isn't this a leap of faith that this young man who speaks so well and is so smart but doesn't really know the ins and outs of Washington and how to get things done? How do you address that?
Well, you know, George Bush was governor of Texas, and
we saw what lousy job he did as president.
Thank you for completing that sentence.
But isn't that the fear, that he doesn't know how to work Washington to make it, you know, his ideas are lofty and powerful, but that he might not know quite how to get the job done?
You know, I read both of his books. Dreams from My Father and The Audacity of Hope. He wrote them himself. And after you read them, you realize this guy has something special. I don't know if you want to call it magical or whatever, but he is able to reach both our minds and our hearts. I think we need a leader like that. If you were at T.C. Williams High School yesterday, you see crowds lining up for hours, thousands and thousands of people, all races and ages and genders, just wanting to be near him, to hear his message of hope, a vision for the future that they want to embrace. And I think that's extraordinary. I think he's a leader that comes along once in a lifetime. And so no matter how dedicated I am to Hillary Clinton's legislative goals and how impressed and respectful I am of her, I think this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for America to let this man lead, because I think he can reach far more people, not just in this country, but throughout the world. And this is a time when we need to send a message to the world that we are the face of the planet in terms of respecting differences and sitting down and working with people in an atmosphere of understanding and mutual respect.
Barbara Favola,
yes.
Is this a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? Is he?
It absolutely is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I mean, the Democrats are very lucky. We really do have two extraordinary candidates, and either candidate will make history. Has a major party nominee, and certainly will make history when the Democrats win the election in 2008. I think the question before the voters is really, which one of those candidates can we most depend upon to lead our country, and who do we feel most confident with? And
but Barack Obama is bringing in all these people. You see the excitement of the young people.
Oh, Barack is very inspirational. There's no question about it. But I would argue that Hillary does have not just a strong legislative history, but 35 years of life experience where she really has been working for the issues that she's now running on. She, for example, has worked very hard on the family leave issue. She's always fought hard for children and families overall. She has good sense on economic issues and how to jumpstart the economy. Remember, President Clinton gave us 8 uninterrupted years of the longest growth the country has seen.
And there's no question he did that. We talked about sort of the rap on Obama. Let's talk about the rap on Hillary Clinton. Is she continuing the Bill Clinton legacy or not? It kind of seems like she wants to have it both ways. In some ways, she says, as you did, Bill Clinton gave us these 8 unparalleled years of peace and prosperity, which suggests that, he's going to be play a major role, that her time served as First Lady counts in that 35 years of experience. And then, on the other hand, she says she's her own person. Bill Clinton, he's going to be puttering around the back. But which is it? I mean, is Bill Clinton playing a major role or not?
I think you can have both. I think she clearly is going to be the leader when she's elected. I think she is going to make the decisions. She will set the agenda. But the record Bill Clinton did give this country is a record that is worth emulating. And I think there will be some continuation, if you will. I'm not sure that's a bad thing. I think she can build on Bill Clinton's record. God knows she has a heck of a job turning the country around after 8 years of Bush. So she'll be facing even more challenges than her husband faced when he was in office.
Well, let me ask about one difference on the issues between Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. I have to say, as a Democrat, I'm very pleased with both of them on the issues. They're really, you have to need a microscope, frankly, in many ways, to find the difference. But one of the major differences between the two campaigns is on health care. And I think there's tough questions for both of those candidates on health care. Hillary Clinton wants to make sure that everyone's covered, but she would mandate that. So that means she would require people to be covered, and that comes at a cost. And Barack Obama says that if you're an adult and you don't choose to buy health care, you don't have to. But then comes the question of what happens when that person has an accident and needs health care. Isn't that a cost for society? So I have problems with both of them on health care. Who wants to go first? Let me start with you, Barbara, and then
Sure.
I'll get to Congressman Moran. How do we require everyone in this country to have health care? How do we pay for it?
Well, there are multiple ways you can look at this. We have employers we can work with. And the fact of the matter is that many small employers are looking for venues, are looking for ways to partner with the government to cover their employees. I mean, this is really one of those issues that are important to attracting a good labor force, to keeping a good labor force, and to preventing turnover. We have working families who we want a system that encourages them to continue to work so they don't have to quit and get on Medicaid for their children and to have insurance.
But let me cut to the chase, because I think Democrats would agree with everything you've said, and there's no really daylight there. Let me cut to the chase. How would Hillary Clinton require people to buy health care? Was this something that the government would provide? Is this something where you would garnish wages if you had to? How would she pay for it?
Well, I think she would sit down with the major employers in the country and come up with a process where I think the business community would have to buy in. I'm one of those who thinks that something of this magnitude, just flat out requiring something, could make it very difficult. It's almost like taxes. Even though the government has a law that you have to pay your taxes, if we all didn't agree that paying taxes was a good thing, it would be very difficult to implement.
So she would require employers to pay. That's the Clinton plan.
Well, I think that would be a part of it. I think there'd have to be some other parts to it. I think the federal government would have to step up to the plate. I think there'd probably be a diversion of resources from other areas in the budget where we would be covering health insurance.
Let me turn to Congressman Moran because I have a tough question for you on the same issue. Barack Obama says that an adult, not a child, they would cover all children, but an adult who chooses not to have health care could choose not to get health care. But we all know that there's, as economists call it, a free rider problem. Someone chooses, I'm not going to pay premiums, I'm not going to pay premiums, suddenly I'm in a car accident, or I come down with leukemia or some other horrible disease, and it's going to cost the system a lot of money, and I haven't paid into my premiums. Now, Obama says that, oh, well, he would make them pay some kind of penalty. But if you haven't been paying all along, it sounds to me like this is an incentive for people not to buy health care. What do you think?
Frankly, there needs to be some refinement of his bill, and his legislative proposal would be fleshed out by the Congress. But I think he's more on the right track, and maybe I'm a little more conservative than Barbara and Hillary. I think people who choose not to buy health insurance should just pay the consequences. The problem is
they get leukemia, and
no.
let
me continue this. The biggest problem now is children who suffer just because of the accident of their birth. Obama covers all of them. So that covers my first problem.
On that, you're the
Secondly.
same.
So does Hillary.
So does Hillary. So that's identical.
Yes, okay.
Absolutely.
Right. Secondly, people who have serious illnesses or disabilities have a very difficult problem getting health insurance because the private health insurers give them such a high premium that they can't pay it, nor can their employers. And that is particularly troubling to small businesses. So that would be prohibited. You can't do that under Obama's plan. That covers my two major objections.
But
then
again,
you cover,
on that,
then you cover the poor.
Both Obama and Clinton agree. They both would use the government to negotiate better plans, better prices for Medicare. On those things, Democrats can support either candidate.
Now,
let's go to the right.
Now we go to
the
difference. And I don't want to unfairly characterize them. But if you look at the demographics, there tends to be a relatively small portion of people who tend to be younger. They have an almost adolescent mentality that nothing serious is going to happen to me. That's how I felt as an adolescent and even a young person. You know, I'm healthy. I'm not going to get in an accident. And they choose to take a risk, even though insurance premiums are very low for that population, because most of the time they don't run into a problem.
Now, what happens
You'll
when
probably
that person,
fall into that
What happens
category,
when that person comes with leukemia? What do you do?
They incur mammoth costs.
Right.
They're going to have health insurance. They're going to have to buy in at a very substantial premium, and they're going to have to pay back into the system because it's not fair for them to be free riders. And since initially, since initially it's a public cost. A hospital is going to have to take them, going to have to provide care to them. So it hits the local government, it hits the state and the federal government. I think you ought to attach their income and their assets, because it's not fair for them to be free riders expecting all their neighbors to pay the cost of their health care. I think you attach their assets and income. That's how I would do it. Now, I'm not speaking for Obama, but I do think that people have the choice. If they want to act irresponsibly, there ought to be consequences, and those ought to be severe consequences. But are you going to be able to mandate it on everyone? I don't think the Congress, frankly, is going to pass a bill like that. And that's what happened with Hillary's health plan, which I thought was an exceptionally well thought out bill, probably the best one that's been offered. It was rejected by the Congress because they read the tea leaves, and the insurance companies and the health care providers put an enormous amount of money in, including the AMA, and killed the bill. I think you're going to have to give up on one of those aspects. If she wants to push it, great. My sense is we're not going to be able to do it. Now,
Barbara,
their objective is similar.
Yes, I'll take my my turn at this.
Good.
I think the times have changed. I give the Clintons a lot of credit, first off, for tackling the health care issue way back when nobody wanted to go forward with a plan. The plan was completely comprehensive, and of course there were winners and losers in that plan. And as you mentioned, Congressman, it sort of died of the lobbyist efforts. The special interest groups, I think, killed that plan. I believe, and I think Senator Clinton believes, that there's now a greater awareness and acceptance in this country by many, many sectors that it's time for some kind of reform. And how that reform works, I think, will have to be negotiated. But we need to agree on certain principles. And I do believe that universal coverage is an important principle. Otherwise, we're paying for that when people go to the emergency rooms in our hospitals. We are paying one way or another to come up with a more rational way of providing coverage to individuals so they actually can go to a doctor when they're initially sick. They don't have to wait till they're in a crisis situation. So we can plan for the allocation of resources in a way that makes sense.
Well, let me ask you
will help everybody.
Let me ask you about universal health coverage, because I have a question here from Sasha. And Sasha wants to know if Clinton's plan would cover undocumented workers. Is it truly universal?
My understanding, and I will admit I do not know all the details of Senator Clinton's plan, my understanding is it's intended first to cover working Americans. I don't know specifically the answer on the undocumented. I do want to point out, however, that undocumented workers in our country are now getting insurance, again, at the emergency room in the hospitals. So, you know, to the degree that we want to put some rationality into the system, that's a question that will have to be debated. Right now, Medicaid does not cover undocumented aliens.
We've had lots of phone calls. A lot of you have written on the blog. We will get to all of you. I'm going to try. I'm going to do my best, but keep writing. Don't let that stop you from writing in at radioinsidescoop.com or calling in on the phone. Heidi from Washington, D.C. wants to know, why isn't Barack Obama accepting to debate on ABC Politico? I don't know if you have an answer to that, Congressman. It sounds like Heidi from Washington, D.C. believes that Barack Obama is ducking a debate. You don't know the details.
He's had lots of debates. It's probably a scheduling thing. You know, I don't know. And I don't care that much right now, because I think we've heard them debate a whole lot. And I think we've got lots of reasons to be able to judge between the two candidates.
Barbara, is Obama ducking debates?
One other thing, if he was doing it, I'm glad he's doing it, because I don't want the kind of atmosphere that is often created in a debate.
We're friendly here, aren't we?
Yeah, but we're not about defeating fellow Democrats. We're about uniting behind common causes. And frankly, some of these debates have bothered me a bit. So if he's doing it for that reason, more power to him.
Quick comment, Barbara.
With all due respect, Congressman, I think debates can be healthy. I think it's important that we learn the differences between our candidates. I think it's important that the issues be talked about. So I would like to see as many debates as the candidates can reasonably accommodate. This is a big decision. This is a big choice, and I think Democrats should really think seriously about who they vote for tomorrow.
And it's not just Democrats. Congressman Moran said he doesn't want to see just Democrats fighting each other. We have a real live Republican on the phone.
A real live
one?
David Avella
in the 8th District.
is the chairman of the 8th Congressional District Republican Party. He has been a longtime supporter of John McCain, and in fact, he's on the John McCain staff. David, we've been talking about the Democratic plans for health care and the subtle differences between them. John McCain's plan for health care, what is it?
Well, it's putting families in charge of their health care decisions. It's bringing the free market in and letting competition help drive costs down, because when people are making health care decisions for themselves, they're going to make better decisions. When a doctor and a patient are making a decision versus having a faceless insurance adjuster telling the doctor what he can and can't prescribe for a patient.
David, specifically, how would John McCain change the current system? A lot of families can't afford health insurance now. A lot of people are uninsured, some 45 million in America. How can families make the decision to get health care if they can't afford it? Specifically, what would John McCain do to change the current system?
Well, he wants to create tax-exempt health savings accounts, which would allow people to get private insurance. He has a patient's bill of rights, making sure that patients are protected, but also building a national market where insurance is more affordable and portable and accessible that can go across state lines.
Would he allow the government to negotiate better prices for those that, for example, we know that in Canada people can get prescription drugs much more cheaply than in the United States. Would he allow the government to negotiate a better price?
Good question. I can't answer that part of the question.
Okay. I don't know if either of you want to comment on John McCain in healthcare. If either of you have a comment.
I think John McCain's first priority is to stay alive through 8 years if he gets elected. But
Congressman, you can ask his 95-year-old mother how you
she does look healthy, doesn't she? She's something else, and she's tough.
But how about that, David? I mean, here you have a candidate.
It is typical of Congressman Moran to have to go after someone on a personal issue.
I don't know, but David, you say it's a personal issue.
I was trying to be funny.
But let me ask you the question. I mean, if John McCain is elected president, he will be the oldest president America has ever elected, 2 years older than Ronald Reagan was when he was elected president, and we all know that near the end of his second term, he was having, many say, some Alzheimer's issues there. What about the fact that John McCain would be the oldest president in American history?
Well, again, I go back to Senator McCain's 95-year-old mother, and also the fact that Americans are living longer. And, you know, many people at 70 years old are going into their second and third careers. And, you know, this isn't the 1940s or when life expectancy was much less. And, you know, campaign with John McCain for a day, and I think you're going to find how he can get through 8 years.
I think you make a good point, Frank. That's up to you, Mark.
No, that's fair.
Comment, but I think he does make a good point. And in all seriousness, he's a pretty healthy guy, and he's been through an awful lot in his life. And to show the kind of vigor that he does, my hat's off to him.
Well, we're going to have to take a quick break. But when we come back, I wanted, David, you'll be able to stay with us a little bit longer, I hope.
A little bit longer, sure.
Okay, good, because I want to turn the focus on you. I've been asking some very tough questions of Congressman Moran and the Board of Supervisors, Barbara Favola, and I want to ask you as well. We got a little bit of time before the break. Let me just ask you very briefly, and then we'll get into more of it after the break, to talk about John McCain's position on tax cuts. To quote what they used to say about John Kerry, first he was against them and then he was for them. I don't know about you, but I'm confused. So one of the things I want to know, first of all, we're going to go to a break and I'll give you a longer chance to respond after the break. But is he now supporting the permanent extension of George Bush's tax cuts?
To not be if you don't support keeping the tax cut, you're essentially saying you want to increase taxes on Americans. And John McCain has a consistent record in the Senate of opposing tax increases. But he has a bigger plan for cutting taxes.
He's going to cut even more taxes.
I'm sorry, say that again?
He's going to cut even more taxes. He's going to keep the Bush tax cuts, which, let's face it, most of them went to very wealthy people, and he's going to cut even more taxes? Won't that cause a huge deficit problem?
Well, if you think about how the economy works, actually, when you put more money in people's pockets, they go out and spend it.
Okay.
And that actually brings more revenue into government coffers to fund vital programs. But also, Senator McCain, a consistent fighter of government waste in spending, would instead get rid of projects like the Bridge to Nowhere and instead use them to put money back in people's pockets.
David, hang on with me. We're going to take a very quick break. That'll give you a chance also to call in. You have the number on your screen. You can also write on the blog at radioinsidescoop.com. Give me your question for any of these candidates. And then later on in the hour, we're going to have Speaker Howell of the Virginia Assembly, who is he's all out endorsing Governor Mike Huckabee. We'll be right back after this.
One day, I forgot to throw away my trash after lunch, but then I saw it later when I was playing in the woods. The next week, I went boating with my grandpa, and there it was. I tried to go swimming, but I couldn't because of my trash. And when I went fishing, well, you can guess what I caught that day. So now I always throw away my trash in the garbage can, where it belongs. James, don't forget your helmet.
Will do.
Not a helmet. Your bike helmet.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm James Thrash with the Washington Redskins. On the football field, a helmet is an important piece of equipment. I also wear another helmet that's just as important. A bike helmet. It's the most important piece of equipment you'll have the next time you're out on your bike. Wear yours and make sure your kids do too. Safety first with the Skins.
Hi, I'm Dr. Darren Liss from HCA Virginia. Did you know that head injuries account for 60% of the bicycle-related deaths and 1/3 of the hospital emergency department visits? The single most effective device to prevent tragedy is to wear your helmet. So wear yours and think safety first.
You have the right to remain silent.
You have the right to be heard.
Anything you say can't be used
What you say will be listened to with dignity and respect. You have the right to information and assistance. Justice isn't served until crime victims are.
August 9th, 1999. I was raped. I felt dirty, and I lost sense of security. Victim assistant helped me with counseling. They helped me write a victim impact statement, and because of that, my rapist got 20 years. With the right help, you can move on with your life.
We'll announce that very end. Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. We've got lots and lots of questions from all of you. Keep it coming. I'm going to try to get as many of them as possible. Let me just finish my discussion quickly with David Avella on the phone. Now, David, I understand that John McCain, way back when George Bush brought forth his tax cuts, he opposed them. He said they would break the bank. They would be too expensive. And now, hasn't he flip-flopped by saying he supports a permanent extension?
Well, at that time, Senator McCain, as you may recall, had a different tax cut plan that actually would have been just as effective for the economy. And not now to, as I mentioned earlier, now not to support extending the tax cuts that Congress and the President passed a few years ago would essentially be a tax increase on the American people. And John McCain has a consistent record of not supporting tax increases.
So does that mean that once we have a specific tax cut, no matter who it helps, maybe it's giving a lot of money to Exxon and Mobil, for example, that basically once you have a tax cut, you should never, ever get rid of it?
We need to keep taxes low on the American people and on small businesses, and it is a standard line to say that tax cuts only favor the wealthy, which isn't true. We have brought more people into the middle class. We've helped create more wealth in this country. We are still the envy of the world economically.
Let me turn to the Democrats on tax cuts. Who wants to take that? Either one of you. Go ahead, Congressman Moran.
Well, I'm happy to. The tax cuts had bankrupted this country. They were proposed on this false premise that you're going to get the cost of the tax cuts plus additional revenue back. Supposed supply-side theorists who have been proven wrong time and time and time again. It was a political ruse to get them through, and the numbers vary somewhat depending upon which academic team that you reference, but basically it's been anywhere from 7 to 13% of the cost of tax cuts have actually come back in additional revenue to the government to pay for them. So we've had to pay for over 80% of these tax cuts. Not us, though. It's our kids that are paying for these tax cuts. And this Republican Party, who thinks it's okay to go out and spend on whatever they want and then send the credit card to our kids, I think that's immoral, and that's what's happened. We had a $5.6 trillion surplus projected over the Bush administration term. It was actually a decade, and this administration has turned that projected surplus into about a $4.5 trillion deficit. We are now at $9.7 trillion of public debt. So much public debt that Americans don't even buy it. we have to send it overseas. China in the last 5 years has increased their purchase of American debt securities by 455%. So, you know, if we were going to defend Taiwan from China, we'd have to first see if China would lend us the money to do it.
So is the Democratic Party now the party of fiscal conservatives?
We've been the party of fiscal conservatives. It was President Clinton who passed the balanced budget. Now, the first President Bush, the 41st president, actually used what's called a pay-go concept. You don't cut taxes unless you cut spending proportionately, and you don't raise spending unless you can pay for it. He got that through. The conservatives, apparently, like Mr. Avella,
well, let me ask him about
that. You know, opposed that. Now, that's probably why he lost. But the fact is, he was fiscally responsive. And Bill Clinton built on that record and balanced the budget. And I'm very proud of that fiscal responsibility.
Let me ask David Avella.
Congressman,
yeah.
What's John McCain's view on pay-as-you-go? Well, let me just ask you.
Given your recent comments earlier this year about with your party now being the majority, the profanity-laced comment you made about what you wanted to do with earmarks and how many pet projects you wanted to bring home, it's laughable to say that you are representing fiscal discipline.
Well, but David, I want to focus on the presidential candidates. Can you please tell me what Senator McCain's position is on pay-as-you-go? The idea that if you have a program that you want to spend on, you've got to tax enough people to pay for it. If you're going to cut taxes, you have to cut spending by an equal amount. What's Senator McCain's position on that?
Senator McCain is as we've discussed, is consistently fought pork barrel spending. He opposed the bridge to nowhere type project.
So would he cut spending enough to match the tax cuts that he also supports?
Well, but you can look at tax cuts as bringing more revenue in. You know, I would ask my friends on the other side, what year during tax cuts was there less revenue coming in to government than there was the year before?
I think you have to look at this in a balanced way. If you're going to grant tax cuts, then there has to be some acknowledgement that growth in services that the government provide have to be reduced. And the fact of the matter is that Americans really don't want their services reduced. Americans depend on Medicare. They depend on Social Security. They depend on a number of programs to enhance their quality of life. And time and again, these programs have come up as sacred cows, and rightfully so. So to reduce revenue coming into the government and to starve domestic programs while at the same time you're borrowing money to fight a war that I think has real questionable results is a dilemma. And we need to think about this in terms of all Americans, our current Americans, our future children, and how we want to stabilize our country.
We have a lot of viewers' questions, so I want to get to all of them. Some that are directed to specific candidates. One is directed to Barack Obama. This is Sonia. What says that Barack Obama says Hillary Clinton is part of the establishment, but he's accepted money from the Clintons for his previous campaigns. He accepts money, so isn't he part of the establishment as well?
Good for him, and good for the Clintons, showing that good judgment to invest in Barack Obama's political career.
Okay. Let me ask J.W. Randolph from Charlottesville, Virginia, wants to know the candidate's position on mountaintop coal mining. Do you know what Senator Obama's position is on that?
I don't know what Senator Obama's position is, although I oppose it and have voted accordingly, and just had a town hall meeting in Alexandria where we expressed our opposition to it. It pollutes the water. It ruins the environment, and the kind of coal we're getting out is one of the worst contributors to global warming. And I just think it's that kind of devastation of the environment is wrong, and it should be stopped.
David, do you know Senator McCain's position on coal top removal and his energy policy as it relates to coal?
On that specifics, I don't. I do know Senator McCain, in the strong sense of Theodore Roosevelt, is for making sure that we're protecting our environment and, you know, protecting this land that we were given.
Oh, but you know if he has a view, you don't know his specific views on, I mean, I think we all agree that America is too addicted to foreign oil. Let me ask you, David, what is Senator McCain's plan to help us cease our addiction to foreign oil?
Well, we have to come up with a national energy plan, and looking at alternative fuels and looking at alternative methods for helping us to reduce our dependence on foreign oil is crucial.
Do you know of a specific plan that John McCain has in that regard?
You know, I don't, but certainly at johnmccain.com, a number of issues are talked about on there, and the energy plan, no doubt, is on there.
Barbara, do you know Senator Clinton's plan on energy?
I don't know the specifics of the plan, but I know the senator is very interested in coming up with alternative fuel sources, of actually creating an environment and a public policy arena where our country can remove ourselves from this dependency.
Is there a difference?
Very environmentally oriented. Senator Clinton's very environmentally oriented.
She talks about green jobs all the time.
She talks about green jobs. She understands green building. She understands how important the environment is in all respects.
I think there's a difference of opinion, though, between Senator Clinton and Senator Obama on nuclear energy. I seem to hear, and I may be wrong, that Senator Obama is more in favor of using nuclear energy than Senator Clinton. I don't know if you two agree on that.
I think that I've perceived the same. He doesn't seem to be as adamantly opposed to it, which was a courageous position to take in Nevada, because Nevada is most concerned about Yucca Mountain, where you would store the used rods that are used in nuclear energy. But as far as I'm concerned, I think we're going to have to look to nuclear energy, obviously with adequate safeguards. If we don't want to warm this planet beyond extension, the other alternative energy sources are going to be inadequate: wind power, solar power, and so on. So I think we're going to need a broad array of energy, and nuclear is probably one of the places we have to turn if we are going to wean ourselves off the fossil fuels that we get from any number of dictators.
Barbara, quickly on nuclear, please.
I think Senator Clinton would consider all of the alternatives. I don't know if she's dead set against one or necessarily promoting another, but I think she would look at all of the options.
Let me ask another question that comes from a listener. It has to do with the fact that many Democrats, Congressman Moran, fear that something's going to come up with Obama. We know that they swift-boated John Kerry. We know that they made huge exaggerations over Al Gore, saying he claimed to invent the internet. That there's all kinds of things that the Republicans will do to run a dirty campaign. And some Democrats are saying Hillary Clinton, yes, there are many, many who dislike her, but she's vetted. Everything you can say about Hillary Clinton has been said in spades. And they're a little bit afraid of something that might come up for Barack Obama. And I'll give you an example. On my website, a supporter, actually Republican, not a Democrat, but she writes in about Jeremiah Wright, the pastor of Barack Obama's church, who has said some pretty controversial things. He went with Louis Farrakhan to Libya in 1984. He said he didn't support him, and Barack Obama has come out and he's condemned Farrakhan. But at the same time, that's his pastor, and the audacity of hope. If you've read the book, you know that comes from Pastor Wright's sermon. He married the two of them. Aren't you afraid, most people don't know who Jeremiah Wright is now, but aren't you afraid that come September, October, if Obama's the nominee, the Republicans are going to be hitting that so hard, saying he's this, black radical pastor, and attributing that to Obama?
You know, one of the things that I find attractive about Barack Obama is that he is who he says he is, and he's laid it all out. He said, he experimented with drugs when he was young. He didn't suggest that he didn't inhale or anything else. He says, that's who I am. He came up the child of a very young single mother, didn't know his father, who had deserted him. He fell in with a gang that he probably shouldn't have, but that's reality. We can relate to that. What the voters find difficult to embrace is somebody who's either hypocritical or dishonest. As long as you lay it all out there, they believe you're human. And I'll tell you, George Bush, before he had
he had some
rebirth.
Drug trouble too.
Well, my gosh, but it didn't count because he was honest about it. He put it out there, and I think the same thing is going to occur with Obama.
We have to go to a break. I know you have to leave us, Congressman Moran. Interestingly,
nice to be with you.
Congressman Moran and Barbara Favola have a bet on the nomination. She's bet on Hillary Clinton. He's bet on Barack Obama. And soon the country, I guess, will know who won that bet. Thank you very much for coming on the Inside Scoop.
Good to be with you.
Barbara's staying, and we're going to take more of your questions right after this.
Sure, my neighbors Gene and Louise, they may be superheroes with superpowers, but that doesn't make them so super at saving energy and money.
Honey?
I may not be able to harness the power of the elements, but I save significant cash and help the environment with appliances, electronics, and windows featuring the Energy Star label. So discover your own energy-saving superpowers. Go to ase.org/consumers.
Mom, Dad's making fondue again.
Jonesy kitty, Jonesy kitty, Jonesy cat. She is my kitty.
She is my squiddy. She is my Jonesy. She is my Jonesy cat. She is my cat.
Things can get pretty ugly when you're bored. In an after-school program, you can find something way better to do.
Adopt a child from foster care. Just being there makes all the difference.
Monica and her friends want you to know that you should never get near a dog when it is eating, playing with a favorite toy, or sleeping. It's really important to make time for exercise and games and keep your dog's vaccines up to date. Never leave a dog in a small, confined space. This can make dogs aggressive like Monica. If you follow this advice, you and your dog can play safely and happily together.
From Washington, back to the Inside Scoop.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. The Potomac Primary is tomorrow. You who vote in Virginia, Maryland, and the District of Columbia will have your chance to make your voice be heard regarding the most important job in the country, the President of the United States. There's still time to ask your questions. You can call in 571-749-1166. Keep them coming. You can also comment on the blog at radioinsidescoop.com. Congressman Moran had to leave, but we still have Barbara Favola. She is the Vice Chairman of the Board of Supervisors of Arlington County and a firm supporter of Senator Hillary Clinton. And we have on the phone David Avella, who is the Chairman of the 8th Congressional District Republican Committee and on the paid staff of John McCain. David, let me go to you and ask you the question again about another perceived flip-flop of Senator McCain. He, 8 years ago, talked about the agents of intolerance, referring to Jerry Falwell, Pat Robertson, and some others. Now he seems to be making nice with the evangelical community. Which is it? Which Senator McCain should we believe?
Well, Senator McCain wants all Americans to get on board his vision for a country that has a strong national defense, where government is spending taxpayers' money wisely, that we're keeping taxes low. And as he said the other day, he's willing to meet with anyone to discuss his vision. And if they want to get on board, he welcomes them.
Well, but are Falwell and Robertson agents of intolerance in McCain's view, or did you think he regrets saying that? What is his position regarding the social issues of the Republican Party, many of whom are going for Mike Huckabee right now?
Well, Senator McCain is a consistent pro-life senator. He, I think if you look at his record closely, you're going to see that he has voted consistently as a conservative on issues that line up with the American people.
Well, it's specifically on Falwell and Robertson and, I mean, their agenda. Has he changed his view, you think, in 8 years, or do you think he's been consistent?
Senator McCain hasn't changed his record on where he votes on the issues. And, again, for those who want to get on his campaign because they agree with his vision for America, he welcomes them.
Okay, I'm just trying to get an answer on the evangelicals. You say, would he still say they're agents of intolerance today? Because he seems to be making nice.
Well, whether he was talking about one individual, certainly Senator McCain respects people of faith. And many prominent leaders in the religious community are supporting Senator McCain.
Barbara, do you think that John McCain has flip-flopped on this?
Oh, I think John McCain certainly has changed his tune. John McCain now is running for the Republican nomination, and we all know that a major portion of the Republican voting base is, I would consider to be a zealot base. They tend to be born-again Christians, but they tend to also have a very strict social agenda. And I always viewed Senator McCain as reasonable on social issues, and I don't mind saying that. But what I've heard recently, I think Senator McCain is really trying to flip-flop to win the trust of this conservative base. And I guess
you don't think
ultimately
he's
that's up
reasonable
for the voters.
on abortion, do you? I mean, he's been pretty...
No, I
okay.
do not.
All right, just to be clear on that.
Absolutely,
also, let me ask you,
not.
in terms of Christians in the Democratic Party, the rap on the Democratic Party is, I mean, Jimmy Carter was a born-again Christian. There are born-again Christians like Jim Wallace. There are liberal Christians, but some Christians don't feel the Democratic Party reaches out to them, even Christians who share Democratic Party values. How can Hillary Clinton do that?
Well, I think you have to look at a candidate and look at the person in total. How has Hillary led her life? How grounded is she in a religious faith or a belief? How moral do candidates act when they make public policy decisions as well as when they make personal decisions? I think all of those things sort of feed into a persona that gives you an insight as to how that person is going to govern. I look for people who really consider the social impact of their decisions. I look for candidates that care about equity. I look at candidates who understand that there may be some vulnerable individuals among us who need a helping hand. And I look for candidates who really are truthful with the American people.
Well, let me ask you about truthfulness, because I've got some tough questions for Hillary Clinton. This is from Mike in Vienna. Mike says that Hillary says that she has 35 years of experience, but she's been in office only 6 years. Where do 35 years come from?
Oh, Mike, that's an interesting question. Hillary, of course, had experience before she started in public life. She was a top-notch lawyer, a practicing lawyer in Arkansas. She, of course, was First Lady of Arkansas, and then was First Lady in the Bill Clinton White House, and now senator elected in her own right from New York. Throughout that
Does First Lady count?
Well, I think it certainly can count, and I think...
Why should it count?
Well, I think First Ladies have had very different roles. And in Hillary's role as First Lady, both in Arkansas and at the White House, Hillary chose to take on one or two issues and really try to make a difference. In Arkansas, it was education reform.
What did she do in Arkansas with education reform?
I understand it was education reform for the K through 12 system, and I don't have a lot of detail on that, but certainly student outcomes improved. I don't know what the situation was before Hillary took on that initiative, but what it tells me is she cares enough about public education to ensure that even kids in inner city schools or in very poor rural areas get a first-rate education, and that's a challenge right now.
Let me ask you a comment from the blog. Maybe we can show that right here. This is posted by Pat Clark on my website at radioinsidescoop.com. She says she's a white female over 45, the type that is expected to be flocking to Senator Clinton, but she eagerly supports Obama. Because unlike the Clintons, she says she expects from Obama, we can show this if we can, more openness, honesty, inquisitiveness, thinking out of the box, not afraid to consult advisors, reaching out across party lines, giving a sigh of relief to the rest of the world, a positive image internationally. Pretty strong stuff. Let me address the first part of her challenge to Senator Clinton. She suggests, and she's not the only one who says that, that Senator Clinton is not as honest or in thinking outside the box or afraid to consult advisors as say, Senator Obama. How do you respond to that?
Well, that's an interesting perspective. I was a career civil servant in the Department of Health and Human Services when President Clinton was president, and of course when Senator Clinton took on the health care reform issue. And from my observation, both in that role and now my observation as a campaign worker for Senator Clinton, I can truthfully say she has a fine intellect that is incredibly inquisitive, and she is one of the best problem solvers I have ever run into in my public or my private life.
Is she honest, Hillary Clinton?
Oh, you know, absolutely she's honest. I've never had a sense that she was holding back on where she wanted to go, or she was being coy about what her policy goals were.
Let me see if David Avella agrees. David Avella, is Senator Hillary Clinton an honest woman? Is she an honest candidate?
Well, voters are going to have to decide that. I would point out one thing on Barbara said earlier that will ultimately keep Senator Clinton from becoming president. And the one of the jobs she was given in the White House during the Clinton administration was the health care system, and she wanted to turn it completely over to the government, which voters and Americans soundly said no way to.
I just want to say that the Clinton plan was not to turn it completely over to the government. The Clinton plan was really, I think, a very creative woven, well, it was a very creative woven pattern that you would both have your freedom of choice to select your doctors. Employers would be able to buy into a risk pool to provide insurance to their employees. There was going to be negotiation with health care providers. There was going to be negotiation with the insurance companies. So the values that the Republicans and the Democrats really hold dear regarding our health care system, in fact, were intact.
We're running short on time, but we haven't at all discussed Iraq. One of the huge differences between Democrats and Republicans, John McCain has said that we could be in Iraq 100 years. David, briefly tell us, if you could explain that comment, and also tell us whether or not John McCain supports George Bush's warrantless wiretapping program.
Senator McCain was for this surge that is now working, and he is the one who pushed it, said that Secretary Rumsfeld had to go, and that we had to take it in a different direction if we were going to win it.
Could we be there 100 years, and John McCain's willing to pay for that?
Senator McCain's point is that we're still in Korea. We're still in Germany. Wars that we fought in the middle and early part of last century.
How about
the concerns that Americans have, not that we would be in Iraq, it's that are our troops going to be safe over there? Or are we going to be able to make it safe? And are we going to be able to help bring stability?
How about
the surge has proven that we can do that. You may have seen the report today that showed Al-Qaeda in Iraq is completely decimated.
David, we only have a few seconds left. Tell me, does John McCain support the idea that you can tap phones, watch emails, and do all of that without a warrant, the plan that Bush has done? Does he support that?
Senator McCain supports upholding the law, and whatever the law is in those areas, that's what we need to follow.
So when the Fourth Amendment says you need a warrant, does he support Bush's view or the strict view of the Fourth Amendment?
I believe Senator McCain is consistent with supporting what the law, being for what the law says.
Okay, well, we've run out of time here. Barbara, I do want to thank you very much. This could go on forever.
Mark.
The debate will definitely continue. I want to thank David Avella very much for coming here in support of the McCain campaign. Barbara Favola.
Thank you.
As well as Congressman Jim Moran, who had to leave. This is Mark Levine saying, get out there and vote. It is your civic responsibility. For now, we're signing off.